This is the Matatu Film Stage podcast powered by Cinema Red Pill. I'm Sharon Rakatungu, and we're going to have a behind the scenes look at Shari Mwanika's I Eat What I Like.
Hi, so I'm Shari MWANIKA. I recently shot and directed a film called I Eat What I Like. I consider myself, I guess, a creative entrepreneur. I'm a filmmaker. I'm currently the brand ambassador at Jameson, Uganda. I'm also the founder of Expressions UG, which is a music platform. Yeah, outside of that, honestly, anything music and arts, I love to get my hands dirty in.
Well, you do a lot of things, but what specifically attracted you towards filmmaking?
I think what attracted me towards filmmaking was, this is a bit cliche, but I really just wanted to be a storyteller, and I didn't know how or what. In school, I mean, I used to write. I tried a bunch of things. And then, like, the idea and the possibility of a filmmaker became more real and accessible to me. And I was like, I want to give that a shot. Surprisingly, I initially was very interested in being a documentary filmmaker, and I used to watch a lot of documentaries. I don't know. I don't know why that is not something I want to do anymore. Maybe how long it takes. I don't know. But that's kind of where it started. I grew up in like a very, I want to say, art centered kind of family. My grandfather, my mom's father, was a poet and writer. And yeah, I just grew up around like a dad who loved to read. So like I just feel like that line of things was always in my face. And surprisingly, actually, my dad is the one who told me to look into filmmaking. I was finishing high school and he was like, "Have you thought about this?" So that's part of the reason. And also, I think having my parents' support to do something like this pushed me further into it. And then lastly, it was just wanting to see stories that I wasn't seeing anywhere else, or that I felt were not like well represented, wanting to see those kinds of stories told. And maybe that's why I was like drawn to documentaries, because I always felt like the ones I watched zoned in on a subject that I'm like, no one else would have picked this, no one else would have told this story, this voice wouldn't have been heard. So I think that's kind of what drew me to filmmaking.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
I haven't heard you mention acting, and I've seen you in a film
I
before.
know. So like honestly, the whole acting thing, when I tried it out, number one, it was honestly for fun.
Yeah.
And like, let me just try something I've never done. But it was also like, man, how do I, for me, it was how do I expect to be a director and constantly give people direction? And I don't know what it's like for them on that side. I don't know the pressure they go through. I don't know what's going through their mind. I don't know how difficult it might be. Because sometimes I'm like, as a director, I have these expectations and I'm like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. So I kind of wanted to see that. I thought it might give me just more insight and more patience with actors. But I will say that after I did it, it was really fun to like disappear into a world and take on, like, just get to be another person and take that on. Yeah, but I don't know if I would say professionally. Ooh, I'm an actress.
You'd not be eager to do it again.
The thing is, I don't know if I'd go out of my way, you know? Because I'm kind of like, I did it for fun. I would do it for fun again, but it's not something I'm chasing. That's what it is.
Okay.
It's not really something I'm chasing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you talk also a bit about the writing process, because you also wrote?
Okay, I think that, so I studied filmmaking, and that was initially the hardest part of filmmaking for me, the writing. And maybe because I wasn't in a very writing centered course, it was a lot more about all the other roles. But I really struggled with writing. I struggled with just even creating dialogue around a story. So I could come up with a story, I could come up with themes. I'm really good with like themes and like the end goal and what I want people to see. I'm good with so many other aspects, and the writing was hard. And I think I Eat What I Like. It's a short film. It's like 13 minutes, but I wrote it from like 2019 up until I shot it in 2022 last year. So that was a long writing, a long journey. Obviously, I started and stopped. But I think that through that process, I really learned a lot about not saying too much, not having to write every single word down. Like the audience can read in other ways, can read what like the people are saying in other ways. But I think also just to speak more to my writing process, I think it's definitely subconsciously impacted by what I watch, how I speak as Shari. I like to think I'm witty and a bit funny, so I think that comes through in how I write. And the writing, honestly, the story was very heavily inspired by when I was in university. I studied filmmaking and then I did an honors. I did my postgrad in psychology, and my thesis was on Ugandan women's experiences of sexuality and sexual pleasure. So I had to like come home and interview like a range of women from, I think the youngest was 19 at the time, the eldest was like 55, and interview them on those experiences. And I think the stories that they told me, I was wowed. I was like, what? And it kind of inspired, yeah, what the story turned into. And I think that there's specific characters, there's three specific characters in the film that definitely, like a lot of their dialogue or how I expressed their opinions and thoughts came from my findings in that study. I've also become a big believer in like, if you need to write 5,000 drafts until the day you shoot, write the 5,000 drafts. Because you can, it not even to perfect your script or your story, but for me, it keeps pushing your boundaries. What that story was like when I just started to what it was now, so different.
Okay, could you talk about maybe a significant thing that happened, that something that sparked a change in the script?
Yes, I can. When I initially, like the first version of the script that I was like, this is finished, I can shoot it. It had about like 5 different locations and scenes and different things happening. And I actually submitted that film to the 545 fund. Didn't make it all the way, but it was a great experience. But something I learned from that was initially I was thinking to make a film, for it to be a movie, you know, people have to see you in this space. Like there has to be a lot going on. And then I challenged myself with what would it look like if your focus was not all the things that glitter the story and that film happened in one space, like in a home. And I think it allowed me to like, I guess, remove a veil or remove so much focus on like all this clutter and kind of make it more intimate, and then truly focus on like the dialogue and how it's moving the story. Yeah, I think that's a significant change for me. Another significant change was when I started writing. I'm a very like, the way my mind works, I've never produced, but I think I would be a good producer. I'm very organized. I like planning. I like thinking ahead. And I was already thinking, I don't have money. I don't have this. In Uganda, we don't have this. We don't have that. We don't have that. So I was writing with those limits already set. And as I went, like people that I would ask for advice kept telling me, stop thinking about what's going to be hard to shoot or easy to shoot. Write your story as if you get to make it whenever, however, whatever, you have all the money. And I think that's something that allowed me to be a bit more creative as I wrote. Yeah.
Is it coincidental that both the film you acted in and I Eat What I Like are really looking at women's sexuality? Yeah.
100% coincidental. Yeah, 100% coincidental. But I definitely think that I took the opportunity to act in that film because I was like, oh, this touches subject matter that's close to this thing that I'm trying to work on at some point. But yeah, definitely coincidental.
Nice coincidence. Now on to money. Like any creative in Uganda knows, like money is hard to get by. But the way you got this film funded was amazing. Please tell us more about that. Like, did you enter it feeling confident you'd get all the money? Like, how was that for you? And eventually getting the money, like that was really great.
When I decided to crowdfund, like something that a lot of people told me was like, you can make the money, but that money is not going to come from Ugandans, right? So push your marketing elsewhere. And like I took that in, and very surprisingly, like 90% of my money did come from Ugandans. And I'm happy that I kind of trusted that instinct within myself to market the film or the crowdfunding to Ugandans. I think something that helped is a big part of my uni course. To make your grad film, you had to crowdfund. It was very different because I was in South Africa, so a different audience, but we still had to crowdfund. And I think I took a lot of the elements that I used there to push the film. I think I've forgotten the question and I'm rambling. You
No,
said
you are answering it. You're talking about the before, and you, how do I rephrase it? Because you've answered most of it, but was it like that feeling of then getting the
yeah.
money?
Okay, so yeah, so I definitely believed we could get the money. That one I felt sure of. It was just the how, and it was just that, okay, we're crowdfunding for 4 weeks. This is about to be a crazy 4 weeks. That's where for me the pressure came from. Like, I knew the possibility was you can get it,
Yeah.
but the steps that you need to take to get there, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. It does.
I'm very big on marketing, to be honest. That's even a big part of my role at Jameson right now. I guess it's a bone in my body that I work well with. And I feel like if someone asks me like, what's your marketing strategy as Shari, or what's your brand? It's very much authenticity. It's very much like vulnerability, like letting people connect to the real me. Because I feel like when I do that, either people feel like they can relate and then they want to support me, or people feel seen. And I think that helped me a lot with I Eat What I Like. I feel like I was very real. Yeah, I think those are things that helped. And of course, like the producer I was working with, Afsa, who is amazing. I think put together we were like a powerhouse. Like I think both our skills, her networks, things like that helped a lot. But honestly, also just the community that like gathered around me, I did not expect. I knew like, okay, my family and my friends, but like people I didn't even know were pushing this crowdfunding campaign for me, like as though the money was coming to them. And so I think like if you're thinking of crowdfunding, man, also just believe in community. You'll be surprised how many people want to support a thing like this, or like whatever your story is. I always like feel like when I've seen marketing campaigns or just like marketing plans, right? Whether it's for a crowdfunding, whether it's for a musician pushing a song, it feels and looks like as each day comes, they're trying to figure out the post for tomorrow. They're trying to figure out, like it feels like you're figuring it out as you go. And like something that helped me was like before I even put that film up on Kickstarter, I sat with my team and made like content calendars, content pillars, like treat it like you work at a marketing agency. And like by the time you start, you should have documents where if for some reason you go into a coma, someone just needs to open those documents and press whatever they press or schedule the posts and they happen. So like a lot of planning. Of course, certain ideas come up as you go and you implement, or certain challenges come, but like plan even 2 months ahead. Okay, so things I learned when I made the film. The number one thing is I wish I gave myself more time. I had like 2.5 days, and obviously working backwards, that 2.5 days had to do with how much money we decided to raise, so therefore how much we could afford for like paying actors, the set and everything. But I really wish I gave myself more time to shoot, because there are scenes that I do feel like we rushed through to just be like time. I do wish I rehearsed more with my actresses. And another lesson that I learned, which is more from something that I think happened well, is, man, treat your crew and cast well. Because if you create like a good energy and a good environment, people come motivated to work. People come excited to work. People are calm. People are not tired. People are not being passive aggressive. People are not irritable. So that's big lessons that I think I learned. Yeah.
In regards to the film, who do you have in mind when you're in the writing process, and also like now that the film is going to be shown, like what is
Audience?
the ideal thing, that you want the audience to leave the film with?
I don't think that I want the audience to leave with a specific answer, but I want them to leave open to conversation, especially. I'm going to use a specific example because it plays a lot on a mother-daughter relationship. And I think even in my own, like I made this film, but I cannot talk to my mom about sex. But I think, like for example, let me not say mother-daughter because people have different kinds of relationships. Let's just say an intergenerational relationship between two women, a woman and a girl, woman and teenager. The hardest part is, okay, first of all, that weird taboo thing of can we talk about this? But also, how do we get both our points across and have that conversation, knowing that at the end, we might not fully see eye to eye, but have we seen each other? Because that's what matters. And I think for me, that's what I want people to leave with. It's like, for me, this film is like a conversation starter. It's not, this is right, this is wrong, this is the view to have, this is not the view to have. Because I think people's cultural views are nuanced. I don't want to reduce and say, you're conservative, you're progressive, so you're good, so you're bad. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do. I know that people's beliefs come from so many different things. So I think for me, what's most important is that, just starting the conversation. I want you to watch that and even be able to use that film to start the conversation, or just leave saying, like the person you watched it with, man, what did you think about this part, or when she said this, or when this happened? That's the most important thing for me. And then, I mean, also just to see women in a light that, like, women and sex in the same room does not have to be negative. It doesn't have to be about she got this disease, she got a baby when she didn't want. She, like, you know, it can also just be normal and light and casual. Yeah, those are my main things. Yeah.
Would you mind, like, in the future, what would you want people to remember you for when it comes to specifically also when it comes to film? It can be general though. It could be all your art.
I want to be remembered for, because I'm crossing my fingers that I'm gonna have seats at the tables that I want to have seats at. I want to be remembered for creating other seats and bringing other people to those tables. That's what I think would satisfy my heart. So I have a dream to turn the one novel that my grandpa wrote into a feature. And if I do make that, when I do make that, I would love to be remembered for that film. Yeah.
My final question, I think. Right now, the state that the industry is in, film industry, and how you experienced it, is there something you'd majorly change from what you experience? Like something you hope to change for whatever the next generation of filmmakers is going to be?
And we're specifically saying here, right? Uganda, obviously.
Yes, Uganda.
I know there's a lot of things that can change, and I can't touch on all of them. But maybe the first things that come to my mind are film marketing. I don't think is very tapped into. And I say that from my experience with the crowdfunding, but from also, like, I find that, like, there's great films that I've watched, Ugandan films, but that's because I'm a creative and I'm in a creative community and I know other filmmakers. But if I randomly go and ask my friend who's not in any way tapped into this world, they've never heard of those stories. And yeah, I think marketing can help, like, a regular Ugandan audience have more access to those films. People who don't know when film screenings are happening, or don't know Sharon and Cinema Red Pill and don't know Ali and don't know, you know, like, yeah, I would love to change that. Like, for example, with I Eat What I Like, I decided, like, my biggest priority was not going to be festivals. It was going to be, how do I just get small groups of people in Kampala to watch this film? Like, if I know that 1,000 people in Kampala have watched it, I've done more than if I win 3 awards at a film festival for me with this particular film. So that's the first thing I think I would change. I think the second thing I would change is like, man, how much the government supports this industry and the gatekeeping of like morality and that sort of thing. Because I don't know, like maybe they think they have nothing to gain, but I'm like, do you know what your entertainment industry can actually do for you? So those are two main things that I can think of right now. One more, last one. I would start like possibly teaching kids film and not just as a university thing. Like, what if there was a class in school? Because I'm like, how many storytellers are out there and they don't even know that this is a thing they could do? And yeah, like imagine just like a class in primary school, a class in high school where you're like, it's an art class, but it's about film. And you get to experiment with that as a medium. I think it would do wonders.
That sounds great. Last question. Okay. Just hearing you talk about this, I just waited. I'm really curious if you're going to work on something else soon. Are you writing anything? Do you have plans for something?
I am not writing anything. I am taking like a self hiatus from being a filmmaker.
Okay.
And I don't know how long. I'll be honest. I really don't know how long. I am just taking a breather from, I don't know, from that form of creativity for me. And I guess filling my cup up. I'm a very like, I like to be inspired when I'm doing whatever I do. So yeah, I'm giving myself that time. Okay, it won't be like 15 years or 10 years, but I'm giving myself that time. But I know this is not the end at all. I'm also wanting to do it when I'm in a financially better place. Like I've experienced struggling to make a film. Now I'm like, next, we make it when we are kawa. Yeah. There's also that. But one thing I do think is that like if I had the opportunity right now to maybe be in like a writer's room, be like a showrunner on some sort of series, I would take that 100%. I've also like maybe since I eat what I like kind of discovered I'm really, really interested in like the form of filmmaking for series versus like features. Entices me a lot more. So maybe the next thing I do will be in that direction. When I started I Eat What I Like, my goal was to turn it into like some sort of anthology series, and this would be one of them. And then I would get like other directors and writers. I don't know if you've heard of an Indian anthology series called The Last Stories. It's really good. It has 2 seasons. It was a big inspiration when I wrote this. But it basically just touches on like sex and love, but in that culture, which is very similar to ours because it's pretty conservative and religious. And each episode is a different theme, different story, different director, different writer. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at with filmmaking right now. Yeah.
Pretty sure we'll hear from you soon.
I hope so. I mean, I hope I surprise myself and next year I'm like, guys, I'm making a film, Sharon.
Oh, love that. Yeah, really look forward to it. This has been great.
It has.
Yeah, this has been the Matatu Film Stage podcast powered by Cinema Red Pill. I've been your host, Sharon, and this has been a behind the scenes look at Shari Mwanika's I Eat What I Like.